Good morning, everyone. It is 8:39. Welcome back to CW Iowa Live. Lou and Jackie here. And welcome back to the show, Rekha Basu from the Des Moines Register.
Thank you so much. It's great to be back.
How were your travels?
Amazing. I was in Morocco, as you know, for a couple of weeks with extended family, and we traveled across the country. It is the most beautiful, magical place. This has sort of been a pipe dream, a bucket list thing of mine always to go to Morocco. But as it happened, this year some relatives proposed it because it was the best way. You know, my son's new in-laws, right? They live in Singapore. They wanted us all to meet for the holidays somewhere in between the U.S. and Singapore, so they proposed Morocco. And luckily for the rest of us, they organized everything meticulously. They hired a car and a driver and a guide, and they had us moving from one place to another every day in this lovely van equipped for like 8 people. And it was, this country is just pure magic. You know, I've seen pictures of Morocco in the past that people have taken, and I've thought they must be really extraordinary photographers because these pictures are so colorful and beautiful and the angles. But you cannot take a bad picture in Morocco. It's just gorgeous, physically gorgeous. The clothes that people wear, the robes, the jewelry.
I need some in-laws that'll do something like this.
You do. You need, or just go, Jackie. You know, it's not that unaffordable because all you have to do really is fly to Madrid. We went on Iberia Air, and then it's just a 1-hour jump by plane from Madrid, and some people do it by boat across the Strait of Gibraltar to Tangier in Morocco. So yeah, these are some of my pictures, and we traveled across the country. This was an area called Chefchaouen, which is a blue city. Everybody has to paint their houses blue.
Really?
Oh, I thought maybe you just had a bad exposure or something.
I know, it looks like it's not real, right? But no, it's beautiful. So you see these little alleyways and these temples, and people really take good care of their houses, and they love to show them off. And you know, the other thing about it that really made me feel so good is people are incredibly welcoming and warm. And it's a Muslim country, 99% is Muslim, but there is no animosity towards the United States for anything about, you know, anti-Muslim. They love Americans, they welcome Americans, and they're a really modern Muslim country, unlike some like Saudi Arabia or something. You know, there's no bans on women doing things like driving cars. And in fact, I think I've written about this earlier, you can go into a drugstore and buy birth control pills without a prescription, which is not something we can do in this country.
Right.
They have they're not called transgender bathrooms, but they have same-sex bathrooms. You can go, so, you know, over here we're still struggling with that whole concept of, you know, male, female. They're very loose about it.
In Europe, they've always been more advanced.
Exactly,
in
exactly.
situations like that, yeah.
And they're just, I mean, and there's such a range of different cultures. Are there more pictures? Can we flip on? There's some I sent. Oh yeah, isn't that lovely?
Gorgeous.
And these are just old temples. So these are mosques and temples, and this one was in a crematorium. It's a kingdom, so they have a king, and he's a young man. He's in his 40s with a couple of kids, but his father and grandfather were the kings before, but they also have a parliament. So the king makes a decree. For example, he decreed a few years ago, not a few years ago, in the 80s, I think, that there should be no more polygamy because it was a polygamous country. And then the parliament and the prime minister voted to uphold that decree. I think they seldom say no to anything the king wants because the king
But they have to go through the process.
Exactly, exactly. So, yeah. So, I mean, and there'll be other, you know, it's caught in a place between tradition and modernity. So, for example, this young man who was our guide, I don't know if he shows up in any of the pictures, lovely young fellow, 31 years old, and he grew up in a very traditional household. His parents want to arrange a marriage for him, which is typical. And he doesn't want that. And he's now exposed to the internet, to online concepts, to Twitter, to YouTube, to MTV. And so he's very hip and very culturally familiar with the lingo and the trends in the United States. So he's this sort of interesting combination of being very old-fashioned and traditional, but also really tuned into the U.S. and to politics here. And, you know, it's lovely to see
He is probably also, I has discovered Match.com too.
Well, you know,
Meetafarmer.com.
Actually, he did ask me if I knew any young woman that would be suitable for him. So if you can think of someone in their 30s who would be interested in maybe moving to Morocco and meeting a really cool guy, very good-looking guy, yeah.
So what was your favorite part?
Well, my
there's, I mean,
favorite-
so many beautiful images. What really stood out to
There are
you?
so many beautiful things. Actually, I have to say my hands-down favorite was riding on camelback through the desert, the Sahara Desert, which was an amazing
How long of a journey
experience.
did you go on?
It was, I mean, it was about an hour, but we got off the camel in that time and we climbed up the sand dunes. They're just beautiful sweeping dunes. I don't know if we got any of them in the pictures there. But we had like a caravan of camels. There were 7 of us from our group, and then there were people who led the camels up and they're very sure-footed animals because some of these dunes can be very steep.
Right.
And then you get down and you watch the sunset, and it's over the Sahara, and it is
picturesque, I imagine.
Stunning. And we slept outside in tents, not outside, but we slept in tents there. There's
How big of a tent? It was like a little pup tent or a big old tent?
Huge tent. It actually was a series of tents which were connected to other tents. So everybody had their own room. I had my own room, and it had like a giant double bed and then a single bed and a bathroom and running water. All of this was set up.
That's in a tent.
But in a tent.
Okay, that's kind of camping I could do
That's
with
the way
beds
to
and running
do it.
water and.
And there was a dining room, and they cooked us this fabulous meal. But the one downside, it was freezing. I slept that night in a down jacket, a hat, socks with towels wrapped around my feet. On top of that, with
in the desert.
Yeah, in the desert. It was really cold. But then we got up really early and went to see the sun rise over the desert, which was stunning too. So it was, and we had this band that came and greeted us and played the drums and sang songs, and we all danced around. It was.
What an adventure!
I really highly recommend it to anyone who wants to know a little bit about the Islamic world in a way that's very accessible, but also who just wants to enjoy the amazing food. The fruits, for example, the tangerines were just everywhere growing on trees. I mean, trees laden with tangerine. And we used to have this freshly squeezed orange juice every day, which was to die for.
What was the best food that you had over there?
Well, we had some really nice tagines. So
what is
tagine
tagine?
is, you might have seen these dishes, Moroccan dishes. There's kind of a regular like bowl-like plate at the base, and then there's this almost pyramid-shaped top that goes over that's usually very colorfully painted with designs, and then a little thing like this at the top of that. And these are called tagines, and they're cooked on an open flame with a combination of rice and then fish or meat and a lot of vegetables. And they're sort of steam cooked
As
for
I say,
a long
they're
period of time.
steamed.
Exactly. Right. So it was great for me and for those of us who eat meat, because Morocco is a very heavily meat-eating country. So there was lovely lamb, there was beef, there was fish. We ate mackerel and anchovies fresh. You don't usually get anchovies fresh. And we loved it, but there were a couple of vegetarians and one vegetarian/gluten-free member of our party who had a very hard time getting it. So, night after night, they'd have vegetarian tagine to the point where they were joking to each other that they needed a trigger warning when talk of the tagine was about to come up, because they had overdone it on the tagines. But then there was some other places with a more varied series of vegetables and things to do with it.
Is it affordable to go? I know you have extended family
Yeah.
and stuff like that, and it sounds absolutely incredible. And you said it is very attainable to go to a country like this.
Yes, so I mean, consider for 10 days that we were actually there and staying overnight in really nice hotels. Some of them kind of B&Bs, bed and breakfast type of places, pensions, and some of them, nice hotels. And all of the car rental, the driver, the guide, the meals, not the airfare, but all of that for 10 days was $700 a person, which is really not that bad.
What?
When you think yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
You can't do that in the States.
I know, because the cost of living is a lot cheaper. So, you can get a hotel room for what, $40-some.
How long of a plane trip was it over there?
Wow. So to Spain, it was like 7 hours, and then, but of course, since we did it, in a weird way to save money on the airline ticket, my younger son and I flew to Boston, from New York to Boston. We had Christmas dinner in New York with family. Then we flew to Boston, hung around there for 5 hours. Then we flew to Madrid, hung around there for another 5 hours. And then this long plane ride, and then, another ride. So the connections took a lot of time.
Right.
But because we were moving around from place to place every day by car, you didn't suffer the jet lag so much because you would just go to sleep in the car. We had like 5-hour car rides every day, but it was a very comfortable car. And this Ben, our guide, was blasting rock music. And
there you go. Perfect.
So we were good.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Absolutely
I'm glad you had a
incredible.
good
Yeah,
trip.
thank you for
Totally
sharing
recommend.
that.
Absolutely. Anyone wants
You need to be a travel agent for
I should, but I just
Morocco.
loved it.
Get
It
us
was
all
like
to
a
enjoy
dream.
See
it.
Rekha on a commercial. Come to Morocco.
Exactly.
Well,
I'll
you're
be
kind of
your
delving
guide.
back into the news of what's happening here locally now, and we were
Yes.
talking before the segment started that you're jumping right in with a big movement that's happening in D.C.
Oh yes, I'm going to be going next week, next Thursday, to DC for the Women's March. It started out being called the Million Women's March, but I think they've changed the name. It's just called the Women's March on Washington. And there's a big Iowa representation. Every state is sending a number of people. In Iowa, between Iowa City and Des Moines, I think they have 8 to 10 buses full of women that are going.
Buses full?
Buses. And this is the crazy thing. I really admire these women. They are going to take the bus over there, go to the march, and then at night get back on the bus, sleep on the bus both directions. So they're not even staying in a hotel. Can you imagine how grueling a trip that would be? That is real dedication.
But also probably very exciting too.
Very exciting. And it's going to be really cold, but you know, it's going to be really interesting to see the number of diverse women coming from all over the country to be a part of this. So I'm very excited. I'll be tweeting and
send pictures back, definitely.
I absolutely will.
All right.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Well,
Looking
thank
forward
you
to it.
so much.
Welcome
Great
back.
to have you back.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
It's
Great to see
9
you.
minutes before 9 o'clock right now, and we will be right back. This is CW Iowa Live in West Des Moines.